Our program's topic is, can you hack it? Or can you hack it? Cybersecurity for families. I hope as you listen, you learn something and apply to your everyday lives. Welcome.
All right, good evening again, everyone. I am here to do the icebreaker today. And for that, I'm going to need everyone to please stand. And then I'm going to need you to make your way to the center aisle, please. Everyone, just come to the middle. I'll explain shortly. All right. So try not to stand up next to anybody. Stand behind and in front of each other. All right, forming one line. All right, good. Now, I think everyone can see these pieces of paper over here. There's one over here called new, one over here called old on my right, on your left, and the one on my left, your right, is called new. All that's going to happen is I'm going to call a book of the Bible. If it is Old Testament, you move this way. And if it's New Testament, you move that way. Now here's the thing, you can't just stand there and wait until everybody move and then want to move after, okay? As soon as I say, you need to move. And if you move the wrong way or you delay too long, you're out. That's it. Very simple. We want to do a dry run, or everybody understand? Everybody understand. All right, we got some experts here. All right, so let's start easy. Job. I see now some of y'all take way too long to move. First of all, you out. Wendy, I don't know if you move or you move. I can't tell. All right, so we move back to the middle now. All right, that was pretty easy. How about Ruth? All right, back to the middle. We can start to pick up the pace a little bit. That's too easy for y'all. Titus. I see about 5 people out right here, so. All right. Back to the middle, back to the middle. Acts. Come back. Haggai. Oh, we got 2 out over here. Back to the middle. Mark. I feel like Shanita looking at TV. I can see she looking at TV, you know. I can see she looking at TV and waiting for people to move. Come back to the middle. Ready? 2 Chronicles. Oh, 2 Chronicles. Not Corinthians. Back to the middle. All right, we're down to our last 6. Whoa, nice. All right. So what's going to happen from now on, we can move a little bit faster. So as I call it, once you get to the middle, you go right back. And if you're out, you're out. All right? Habakkuk. I'm back. I see 2 out right there, so. Ephesians. 1 out right there, so back to the middle. James. All right, back to the middle. Daniel. Galatians. Colossians. Come back to the middle. You got to come back to the middle. Come back to the middle. Philippians. Joshua. 1 Timothy. 1 Samuel. Ruth. Ooh, I see a lot of dancing. Right? All right, come back to the middle. You got to come back to the middle after each one. Hebrews. Ooh. Hebrews. New Testament. All right, we're down to our last 2. All right, we can pick up the speed, okay? All right. 1 John. Titus. Proverbs. Matthew. Ecclesiastes. Ooh, Ecclesiastes is in the Old Testament. Auntie Jean. Correct. All right. Good job, everyone. Thanks for participating. I hope you enjoy the rest of the program.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming back to our AOA program. Today, this afternoon, I'm excited to introduce you to our speakers of the afternoon. Nearly call her sister, Christina, Christina Rogers and Chad Hines. Both of them are colleagues with me, and they are members of the Barbados Information System Security Association, a mouthful, but basically they look at cybersecurity and information security. They're both professionals in this field, and I'm excited to hear what they have to offer. I'm going to ask the media team, who I cannot see right now, if they can bring up the presentation. You guys will start with the presentation? Okay. If they can bring up the presentation.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us, and it's a pleasure to be here. My colleague and I, as Keisha would have said, we are a part of the Information System Security Association Barbados local chapter. Barbados local chapter. And we have been in operation for over a decade. We are a community of cybersecurity professionals, and our aim and purpose is to promote security and ensuring that we have a secure digital world. We work with the ISSA International and host several events in our community on different cybersecurity topics. In addition, we publish several articles within the community on cybersecurity. So as I said, thank you for having us, and we hope that you enjoy the presentation. You can take back key takeaways that you can implement in your daily lives today. So what is cybersecurity? Next slide. Cybersecurity is basically the art of protecting, not just at home and within your organization, your network, your devices, and your data. Your data is really important. I jumped several slides ahead, but let me just let you know the agenda. So as I said, we're going to discuss cybersecurity, the motivational factors for cybercrime, what is social engineering, the double-edged sword of social media, because I'm sure all of you use social media today, controls that you can implement to secure your social media, what should I do if I am compromised, and the best practices for internet security.
Before you go on, can you guys go on top of this one?
You want to go here? Okay.
Camera and the link.
Okay. Okay. Next slide. So, as I said, cybersecurity is important for everyone. And who should care about it? Everyone should care about cybersecurity because we can all be impacted in some way. Today, we all use, for our convenience and benefit, digital technologies within the world today. And with it, these digital technologies have helped improve our daily lives in some form or fashion. We have the ability to communicate better with persons and families around the world. We have multiple devices in which we use, whether our phone and our tablet, and emerging technologies are occurring. Who has ever heard of AI? Today, we have AI in our environment and emerging technology. And it is a benefit to us in some form or fashion. Maybe some of you may use ChatGPT. ChatGPT helps us with data analytics. It helps us create different presentations. It helps us to maybe several businesses to improve their daily work items within the organization. But with the use of AI also comes the bad. there are several bad actors within the community who now are becoming more sophisticated. And they're using AI not just for good, but also for bad, where you can have several phishing emails coming to you at a high speed, more than a regular human sitting down doing those phishing emails. You now have cyber actors, bad actors using AI to do more phishing emails. And, you know, we need to become aware of this. So what are the motivational factors of cybercrime? We have financial gain. Bad actors target you for your data, your personal information. And they sell this data on the internet. And with selling this data on the internet, it has monetary value. And in having monetary value, they're able to gain financially by also creating organized networks and crimes by funding those organized networks in which they also can commit cybercrime. We have political manipulation, where within the global arena, you have bad actors also influencing political information warfare. You have fake news, propaganda. They use it for fake news and propaganda. And maybe you may have insider threats within your organization where you have a disgruntled employee who may use cybercrime for their benefit. So in looking at the motivational factors, what are some of the things that you must consider? Your personal data. What is your personal identifiable information, PII? That is the data of who you are, your name, your first name, your last name, your address, your email, maybe your identification number. And this data is important to you because if it gets on the network, if it gets out there, you know, you have bad actors, as I said, that can use this information to target you, not just for identity theft. You know, persons may know where you live. They may now have access to the information to target you in some form or fashion. Next slide, please. So here's an example of your personal information, as I would have said, and some items that you may want to use to some key data that you need to protect. Okay? Next slide. So how do bad actors target you? One of the ways in which they do that today is social engineering. Social engineering is where someone tricks you into committing an act that you would not have necessarily done. You will, for instance, you may receive an email, and within that email that you receive, you may send them money, or they trick you into sending your money from your account, which may have an impact on you. So some of the social engineering tactics used today are, next slide, you have email phishing. This is the most common form of social engineering. Some of you may be home, busy in your daily lives, and you receive an email, and you may not necessarily know who's this person that sent you this email. And some persons may click on it. They may click on a link within that email. They may open an attachment that you would have received in that email, or that email can ask you to enter your personal credentials. This is at risk to you because in committing these acts, when checking your email, you could give that bad actor the information they need in order to commit a crime. You also have vishing. Vishing is via phone call or voice messages. For instance, someone may call you claiming that they work at a bank and they're investigating or a fraud that was committed by an employee in their department, and they may need to get some information from you. Now, you may not have necessarily sat and said, well, who's this person calling me? Are they really from the bank? you need to double check to see if that person was really from the bank, because they may call you to get your personal information, causing you to maybe transfer funds to them or reveal some kind of personal information that they may use against you. So when tending to receive phishing voice calls, you want to verify and validate that that person or business calling you is actually who they say they are. And we have smishing, another social engineering attack in which you may receive a text message. And this text message may look legitimate, but it's necessarily not. So we need to sit back, even though in our daily lives, to look whether it be email, a voice call, or smishing via a text message to see, well, is this link legitimate? Who's this person that is requesting information from me? And what it is what is it that they're asking for? Feel free to stop me anytime if you have any questions. Sure.
When you talk about the one with the voice call, you know, sometimes you can't even get through to your bank to find out if the person is really from them. There's so much hiding behind the layers of persons in front of you that sometimes you can't find out.
Yes, that may be so. Maybe it may be hard to get through, say it's from the bank. Maybe it might be hard to get through to the bank, or maybe it might be hard to get through to a certain business. But I would ask that you pause and wait before you divulge any information to that person requesting that information. And if that business or person that is tricking you, if that business or person is saying that this is who they are and you're unable to verify and validate that, I would recommend not acting at all. Delete the email or the text message, or say to that person, just don't take their call. You can block their number on your phone. Yeah? Go ahead.
I wanted to add to that no reputable company is actually going to call you and ask you for your PII. So if that's happening, you can almost automatically assume it's phishing.
Exactly. So, you know, events that are occurring are not just occurring overseas, they're occurring within our region. Recently, we've had within the region several cyber attacks. For instance, a couple months ago, we had in Trinidad and Tobago, a telecommunications company was hacked. This impacted not just Trinidad, but it impacted several territories such as Barbados, Jamaica. So one event within our region can have a trickle-down effect on all of us. We had Courts that was attacked, their e-commerce platform was also attacked the other day, and that caused millions of personal information to be out there on the internet. And you may ask, well, why is this important to me, or how is it impacting me? But as I said, there's not much you can do at this point, because your name is out there, your address is out there, your email is out there, you know, maybe your passport is out there, and these are things that are not easily able to come off of the internet. So what can we do to protect our data is the key message that I'm hoping that all of you can take away. So in social engineering, I talked about email being the most common indicator. I'm gonna let Chad go through things that you should look for within your email. Before we do that, do you have a question? Yeah.
Was asking, what can we do? Because you said, I'm not sure if you answered that. What can we do to protect our So if I'm realizing that somebody clearly has my number because I'm getting these phishing calls all the time, what can I do?
Okay, so we have a
Or
slide
I'm
that
getting
Yes.
phishing emails.
We have a slide that will go through that, but to answer that particular question for phishing, as I said, always verify the source, which you would have mentioned earlier. Yeah. Go ahead, Chad. What are the key indicators that you need to look for in receiving an email?
Slide. Hi. Good afternoon. Who here has ever received a phishing email? Okay, majority of the crowd. Good. So we have a sample here based on what Christina would have outlined. Phishing emails is one of the most prevalent methods that we have realized that threat actors are using. So let's take this top to bottom. From William Gates to me, dear friend, I was hoping you could send me some money, but I need your bank details first. I also need you to reset your email account for security reasons. Please click here to download more information. Regards, William. So, first red flag. The display name, William Gates. However, the email address, as we can see, that's clearly something frivolous and made up. Fate123@somemail.xyz. So that should be your first giveaway. You don't know that email. That's not a standard email format. Therefore, that should be your first red flag. Next, dear friend. Now, look at this impersonal, generic salutation from a friend. If it was a friend, no one says dear friend, they call you your name. So that's second red flag. I'm going to bundle 3 and 4 together, send me some money and bank details. Now, majority of phishing emails surround getting you to send something, whether it be credentials, images, money, etc. And in this instance, it's tied to your bank details. So again, as we alluded, nobody's going to call you and ask you for that information just straight off the bat, just like that. Next, we have reset. I need you to reset your email account for security reasons. Now, that doesn't make any sense if you're really taking it in just that. Why do I need to reset my email for banking details information? Next, we have here. Now, typically, again, as I said, the aim is to extract information. Clicking here in this email will most likely redirect you to a malicious endpoint, which would then in turn look to either have you supply your credentials or download malicious files on your machine. So to address this, always inspect a link by hovering over first. That's by using your mouse pointer. Then you observe the URL that comes up or website. Obviously, it's not going to be something you know. It's going to be something very random. Therefore, that should be a red flag. I'm going to add 2 more to this. That's not on this slide. Usually, phishing emails have a sense of urgency attached to them. So a line in there may say something like, I need this done in the next 12 hours. This is super urgent. Or something, this needs to happen for operation, or something that essentially triggers in your mind that this is something that needs to happen ASAP. And next, spelling errors. This particular sample does not have any grammatical errors, but we have noticed that there are grammatical errors in phishing emails that most persons may or may not catch. What you may find is that they may replace the common I with a capital L, or they switch the A with an at sign, just things like that. Or you may have something like just a plain old poor grammatical construction of a sentence. Any questions before we move to the next slide?
We have a question.
Yeah, good afternoon. Those grammatical errors that you mentioned, is that also an indication of an AI-generated email?
It could be, because as Christina would have alluded, AI is being used more and more on the good and on the bad. So you can have a AI-generated instance that can generate a grammatical error to make it mimic a human, right? But that said, most grammatical errors are at this point driven by human intervention at this point.
So just to add to that, because AI has now changed the game, most phishing emails that would come from AI doesn't necessarily have a grammatical error. That's why we need to be more vigilant in when we receive the emails, looking at the subject, the sender, who came from it, what's in that email. So as you pointed out, the game has now changed completely.
Leslie? Okay, so we're continuing on the social engineering path. So we're going to speak about QR codes. And a QR code at its core is just a barcode that's readable by machine that persons or vendors would use to say if you have a website you're trying to promote a specific set of material, you can scan it quickly with your camera. Keep that in mind what I said. You can scan it with your camera and go quickly to the URL, whatever they're trying to push. So what we have observed is that threat actors can manipulate that barcode, embed malicious material behind the URL, and you're actually going somewhere else where you actually think is something legit. So here are a couple fail-safes we can use to alleviate that. So you want to verify the source. Again, that's always rule number one. You want to make sure this is who is saying behind the email coming to you, scan this QR code. You want to make sure that it's a legitimate source. If you haven't heard about it, do your own research, ask questions. Never assume that something coming to you is from the source it is. I like to try to tell people to be naturally skeptical. That is a good rule of thumb when you're proceeding in these sort of operations. So you want to visually examine the signs for manipulation. So as I said, the barcode is manipulated. Visually examine it may be a challenge. However, if you were to really take a look at this code, I took a look at a lot of QR codes. So if you observed in the bottom right-hand corner, you notice you have 3 big squares and 1 small square. Right. So that's just an example of what an overlay could be. So more or less, it's layers on top of layers. It skews the barcode, and actually malicious material is wrapped in there. So you're not able to read it just like that. As I said, it's essentially a barcode. Right. You want to be cautious when you're scanning. If somebody asks you for credentials, if it asks you for any sort of information, why you do need to log into this? Verify the source. Is it really the bank? Is it really Netflix? All that you more or less need to verify. If that is happening, my suggestion, go directly to the site. You open a fresh window, you browse directly to the website, separately from the QR code, and you observe what the website is saying and see if that is exactly matching with what the QR code present to you is saying. Scanning QR codes that promise freebies, anything, cash, sweepstakes, etc. You want to be very, very mindful of that. That's actually something very quick, because remember, a QR code, you don't have to type anything. You scan, boom, you go to the endpoint. Endpoint meaning a website, and you down from there, you at the races. You don't have to type in anything. So it's a much faster method of pulling in information, yeah? Now, when I started this slide, you remember when I said, you use your camera. You want to consider using a QR code scanner. The camera on most phones right now natively allow you to drag in information from a QR code. The plan is to use a secure QR code scanner. Why is this important? The QR code scanner is going to look at the URL, drag it in, analyze it, determine if the reputation is good or bad. Yeah? If it is, it'll give you a warning and drop it. If it's fine, then you can proceed. The camera, however, does not. You just see it, you click, and you're off to the races. Any questions? Sorry? Okay.
It's not really going to be about that, but you go to a point of sale, you go to a supermarket or whatever, you're there by the cashier, and they ask you to tap your credit card. How dangerous is that, tapping as opposed to, because apparently they say that the code is now out there. So I just want to know, how safe is that?
So we tap for a specific limit. What you are probably speaking about is something called skimming. So you know how you would probably swipe your card before? So essentially when you swipe your card, you could be susceptible to something called skimming, which is a reader that you swipe and is really not really what you're swiping towards the particular merchant. To answer your question, how safe is it? There are mechanisms in place which are more technical level right now that handles the tapping. And if it realizes that it's a particular limit, if you're going to a particular merchant, safeguards are in place to protect that. So the tapping is hardened from that standpoint. Okay. So double-edged sword is social media. Social media is great. You can use it to speak to your family. You can represent your business. You can post professionally. Anybody heard of LinkedIn? Right. LinkedIn, social media, tons of brilliant content out there. I use it all the time for my studying. It works. It's a good, again, it's a bad. So that said, I'm going to delve a little deeper on the bad side of it, the damages you or your family or your organization could sustain, and the safeguards, how we get around falling into those pitfalls. Next slide, please. Okay, so as Chris said previously, we're in an information-driven world. Everything has a social media platform. If you don't have a social media platform, creating it takes seconds. Now, if you put all your information out there, more and more and more, you become a lucrative target. The more information there is out there, the easier you are to, as we say, hack, compromise, investigate, etc. You can Google yourself. I guarantee you will see a picture of yourself, albeit it may just be a regular picture, but my mom getting at is that you can Google yourself and you can find yourself out there. Most of it came from some sort of social media platform. So, putting too much information out there, you can find yourself in the following pitfalls: invasion of privacy and impersonation. Who here has heard of, persons having a credit card open in another state or another country, and then, yeah, exactly, you have this big credit and you're like, I don't even know what a credit card is, but yeah, you got a $50,000 bill, yeah? So that information out there, when it's leaked, persons can use it against you, tarnish your reputation, point against your family, employers and prospective employers. It's a bad day all around. Now, for children especially, now everybody knows children. Sure.
If I don't have a credit card, that can happen to me. I would have to have a credit card, wouldn't I?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
No, you said you could have a credit card debt. So I'm just asking, if I don't own a credit card, could I have a credit card debt? Yeah. So
that was an example at its core. But to your question, here's how I will play a real world situation. You may not have a credit card, but you have a first name, a last name, an address, an ID number, and other pieces of PII, as Chris spoke on earlier, that is needed to approve a credit card. I have that. I can take that. I can run with it. I can open an account under your name. Again, that's just an example I'm saying of what does happen, yeah?
Yeah, but who pays for that? Answer that, please.
So, again, it's the impersonation.
We're going to get to, if that happens, what you need to do. Because it occurs every day, and what you should do if that occurs. But to Chad's point on social media, the basic takeaway here is be careful what you post online. So for instance, if you are going to New York tomorrow, don't let everyone know that you've gone to New York tomorrow, because maybe you live alone and you're opening up for someone to know that this is your address because you took a picture in front of your house with your car's license plate number, and you're inviting that criminal to come and, break into your house and rob you. So that is why we really need to be careful on what we post on social media. No question? Yeah. In addition, you don't want to let anybody know that even though we're business people, we have LinkedIn, and you don't want to let people know, well, this is where I work, this is my CEO, this is, all of my colleagues within my network. You are opening up to be a target, and maybe someone targeting them to target you as well.
Yeah.
So these are just some examples of why we need to be careful on social media.
Yeah. And to your point, Chris, LinkedIn is not a safe haven. Huh? Yes, it's a legit platform. Yes, we have plenty of jobs, plenty of openings, plenty of learning material. However, I was listening to a podcast recently, and a guy, summary was saying he went on LinkedIn, he did the recruitment process, he was going for this developer job, so it was a remote job, and he went through the full process, whatever that is, and he supplied information. He even got a laptop, so he was like, yeah, this is legit. And lo and behold, what he realized is that he had to pay some of the money ahead for this laptop. That was the first red flag. And as it went along, when he paid more and more money he raised, he was paying money, and it was a scam. It was a very expensive scam, but what I'm getting at is, we hear on LinkedIn, always keep your blinkers on. It's not really safe anywhere you go. So always confirm the legitimacy of the source. Yeah. Next slide. Now, there was a last slide behind there speaking to cyberbullying. Now, we know cyberbullying, what it is. We know the damaging effects it can have on not just children, but adults as well. Now, this is a rule of thumb that I give my kids all the time. I have a 13-year-old. She likes to do a lot of browsing, so I always tell to her, if you want to post something, think about what you are posting. If you're going to post something, think. Don't post anything that you're not comfortable the public seeing. That is what that statement is saying in summary. And you don't want any of those audiences to see. Yeah? Because when you put it up there, there's no getting it back. So that's my rule of thumb when it speaks to social media. Got anything to add on that, Chris?
No?
No?
I think we got
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just add, not only don't post it, but don't send it to anybody. Because I watched a documentary recently where a guy was able to get access to photos that young ladies had sent to other guys and use that to manipulate them to get them to do stuff. So be careful what you send to people in general.
Yes. Very, very valid point.
And that's even within WhatsApp, We tend to talk to people on WhatsApp every day, but what are you posting in WhatsApp? Is that something that you want out there? Is that something that you want everybody to see in case it was, there was a breach? So always be careful what you post in WhatsApp, whether, as I said, your PII data, don't put your account number, don't put your credit card information. Just be careful what you post in general.
So, we're going to now speak about the controls we can implement to secure your social media platforms. So as a parents, and not just parents, that really means parents, guardians, adults, wards, anybody under your care, you yourself post responsibility. That way you then educate anyone under your care to then follow that behavior and mirror that. Yeah? You want to make sure your account notifications are on. If somebody from UK logs in your Gmail account, you want to make sure Google's letting you know that. Was this you? Was it you on vacation? No? Okay, you want to block that. Then you take the notification further, you speak to it, and then you go ahead and you put the corrective steps in place. Because if that does happen, that typically means that, well, yeah, something has gone awry with your account. Remove unneeded social media accounts. You may have an old email, have an old platform you no longer use. You want to remove that. Reason being why you may say, oh, you don't log into it is inactive. Threat actors can scan. They can understand, well, this is the ID that was used. This is the last time that was accessed. And again, they can use that information to target yourself or pivot towards others to cause harm. And you also want to restrict access from third-party apps. When I say third-party apps, certain camera apps, picture apps, video recording apps, editing, etc. Be skeptical on accepting friends. That's Okay. Be skeptical accepting friends. If you know somebody, always verify again. Even if you have similar contacts in common, you make sure who the person is. Once you have validated that, then you can then proceed to adding them to your platform if you wish or not.
Who has Facebook? Who has Instagram? Okay, so in having Facebook, Instagram, and any other social media that you have, we want you to go into your accounts when you get home. And then going into your accounts, we want you to go to security and privacy settings. In going into your security and privacy settings, I'm gonna let Chad talk about a privacy checkup tool in which you can see how secure you are on your different accounts that will aid you into making it more secure. What you should turn off, what you should turn on, and different information that you should exclude. For instance, if you say, this is my birthday today, I was born on February 24th, my first and last name, and this is where I live. If your social media, your Facebook has that, then you want to remove some of those items from there, right? Because we talked about PII data. So, Chad, go ahead.
Sure. Thanks. So we're going to look at the checkup mechanisms for the social media platforms. In this sample, we have Facebook, the one on the left, the one that's slightly cut off. It's a privacy checkup. So essentially what it does is it makes sure when you're posting who can see what ads you're allowed to see, the data you can and cannot see coming through your profile, and your specific preferences. So if you're posting, who can see it, who can comment, who can forward. Essentially, it hardens your account. That way, you won't have a series of people joining on your account, sending messages, etc., etc. Now, the security checkup for IG, if you could see here, if you notice on the top, it says there are 3 dots. Now, these are 3 items that need to be addressed. On this specific account, we are seeing password, create a stronger password. We're going to have a slide on that as well, regarding harder passwords. Email, verify the email address is correct on the specific platform. And you want to have a mobile number that's used for validation, recovery, also could be used for 2-factor authentication as well. On this account, 2-factor authentication is enabled, so yeah, that's a green flag in this regard. Okay, so let me start with what authentication is. You know, you have your username, you have your ID. Your username combined with your ID, that is authentication. That's just simply your password. That's 1 factor. 2-factor is a second layer of authentication against that, which means you put in your password and you may get a text on your phone, you may get a phone call. That in a sense, you need the password along with the second factor in order to give you access to what application you're trying to access. Is that clear?
Any questions on this side, on 2-factor authentication? No? Okay.
Right. So, regarding third-party apps for parental controls, for the Android tablets and the iPads, etc., you have parental controls that you can lock down the timing. You can set a threshold that if your child is on the tablet past 9 o'clock, when 9 o'clock comes, it locks off. It shuts it off until a specific time, and there's no getting around it until you release that as the parent. Yeah? You can block websites, block specific inappropriate content based on the age of your child. You can also manage that in Windows. You would then manage the account. Say you don't want, say you have 2 children. You have a 13-year-old and a 3-year-old. No, 5-year-old. And the 5-year-old, you want certain content blocked, you can manage it via the profile. When they log in, they can see certain content, age-appropriate content, of course. And for the 13-year-old, the same thing applies. And that is controlled by the parent. So essentially, you as the parent or ward, you're administering the machine and what they can and cannot see. Yes?
What are some examples of third-party parental control apps? And not the complicated ones.
Kaspersky Kids, Kids Safe, right? Kaspersky Kids Safe. That appears to be a pretty lightweight app and a pretty known app because Kaspersky is a known security client as well. It's been for a while, so it's pretty established. There's another one called Family Safe as well. However, again, most of these apps typically have one goal in mind: harden the device against your child misusing and abusing the device. But those are the two that I can tell you off the top of my head that are pretty user-friendly. Next slide, please. Now.
So this slide Chad is going to talk about what should I do if I'm compromised would be beneficial to you.
Right, so if you are compromised, and again, putting these controls in place simply hardens and reduces the probability of you being hacked, compromised, etc. So if you are compromised, first thing you want to do is you want to change your password immediately if you can do this. If you cannot, and it's a social media platform, there is an account recovery option, and there's also a grievance webpage that you can go speak to someone. Once you prove that you are the legitimate account holder, you then go ahead and proceed with getting the account locked, removed, well, the content removed, the abusive content removed, and then you go ahead with restoring your access towards the account. Right? That in itself could be a very lengthy process, obviously, because you have to prove who you say you are. You have to authenticate yourself against Facebook, IG, etc. Yes, please.
My email was compromised, and I could not even send an email out. It would come back to me every time. Tell me how to deal with that.
Was it a Gmail? Outlook? Yahoo? Okay. So in a situation like that, I would do a search for the Yahoo account recovery, and then typically there's a page that would give you all the steps required to do that. Or it'd be phone. What I would say is that a phone call is typically the way to do so. Yeah. Have you tried forgetting the password and seeing if there's a way that you can get to reset? Okay.
Every time I send, I can access it still, but whenever I try to send an email out, even to my sister, it comes back to me. It never goes anywhere but in that setting itself. It doesn't go anywhere. So I open another a Gmail this time, and I use that for now, but I would still like to recover that.
I just want to say, before Chad continues on that point, sometimes we find ourselves struggling, and maybe you may not know what to do. So to get assistance, you can visit an established technical store, and the technician can assist you in whatever technical recovery or device recovery that you may need. In addition to not only going to an established technician, as I said, as a local chapter, we try to assist where we can. So we have our president in the back, Anthony Harris, and he will guide you to, if you contact BISA, into assisting you as well, because that's what we're here for. So we try to help. The point is, get help or a family member to help you as well.
Thanks, Chris. So, point 2, we would want to report the attack to your personal contact. So, you would want persons in your circle to know, well, my account has been compromised. If you see any emails from me, messages, etc., just ignore them. That's not me. You really would, again, as Chris said, your local security association chapter for further assistance. or from your organization to your resident IT officer. They will be also able to give you assistance on that front as well. If it's a finance institution, freeze your cards immediately. Don't wait, don't think, don't pause, freeze the cards immediately. Again, because transactions are instantaneous, and you don't want a situation of you were going to pause the card, but then, no, overnight a $500 charge come off. No, just freeze the card, and then take it from there by having a conversation with the fraud department, and they will be able to assist you further to determine what's the next remediation needed. You want to also report the inappropriate behavior. Again, you can use the platform to do so, IG and Facebook. I believe TikTok has one as well that you can use abuse and essentially push your case further as well if you believe that your account is being used for nefarious purposes.
All right, so best practices for internet security and the tools that you need to put in place in order to help you be more protected online. One, you want to think about strong passwords. Do you have a strong password? Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or say if I had a daughter, Amelia 1, 2, 3, or my address. A strong password must be unique, it must be long, and it must be complex, okay? And having a strong password, maybe you want to have a passphrase that you may remember. It could be a particular church song created in such a phrase that you would only you would know. Maybe it might be chocolate cake is his favorite dessert, your husband's favorite dessert. So create a long password, have a passphrase, right? Or we have something today called password managers. Has anybody ever heard of a password manager? All right. A password manager, I like to think about it as a personal assistant, because I have a bad brain, and the amount of things that I need to do every day at work, I can't remember every password for every application. You don't want to use the same password for every site that you use or application. So if you were using your password for Facebook, you don't want to have it for Gmail. You don't want to have it for that particular TV, Netflix show that you like to watch. You need to have separate passwords. And that is where a password manager aids you, right? A password manager, you need to remember the master password. That's very important. Because if you forget the master password, you can't get into all the other passwords you have for your accounts, right? So you need to remember the master password. But in that password manager, the password manager has the ability to tell you, well, is your password safe? Is it secure? Is it out there within any other platforms? It has the ability to use the password that you want to put in, or it can generate a password for you, a complex password. Yes, please.
So I was wondering if, because iPhone has this suggestion thing where you store all your passwords. That's a password manager. Okay, she's saying yes, that's a password manager. So I was just asking that because I don't remember passwords. So what you just said was me, a password for every single thing. It's the same password straight across the board, but I stopped and I used the suggested one that Apple gives you. So I was just wondering if that was a safe one to use.
As long as you secure your device, it should be safe, right?
You have my facial recognition. Is that safe? Because there's no master password other than my face.
Chad, do you think her face is good enough?
So, biometrics in general have their own set of challenges. However, Apple has done some significant research and work to ensure that your face is essentially very difficult to copy. Even if you have an individual that looks just like you, say you were a twin. There have been developments put in place to stop that from happening, and it has been tested. So to answer your question, yes, it is definitely a viable option.
Okay. In addition, we talked about MFA, 2FA, and that acting as a second layer of defense. Whether it be you signing on into Facebook, go and turn on 2FA. If you have online banking, you have to use 2FA. In order to put in your password, you then receive a SMS code to your phone to then put in that code. The bad actor needs that code in order to have access to your account. So maybe they have your password, but they don't have the code. So within the different applications that you use, you want to turn on 2FA, right? Also, when you are searching the internet, what do you like to search for when you use the internet?
Hi, there's a question. Sorry?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, the generals. You were asking what's 2FA.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Multi-factor
Yeah,
authentication.
two-factor authentication. That's what the 2FA is there.
It's just another. Go ahead, John.
So you can bundle your authentication. Again, let's start from the top. Username. You can do a password. You can do a PIN. You can even go further to have a biometric. So it's different layers. So multi-factor authentication uses multiple factors of authentication. Two-factor only uses two. Yeah. So if you may realize they are, I don't know if you've ever noticed certain companies you put in a PIN and then the biometric. That's two. There are certain applications that you have password, you get a code, and then you still have to use your token. So that will be an example of the multi-factor authentication.
Is that clear?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question about passwords. I agree that the longer a password is, the more difficult it is to compromise. But I think that I am seeing a general trend where people are reducing the amount of characters that you can put, especially in critical areas. And that means, therefore, when you work out the permutations and the combinations, the criminals can guess it a lot quicker. So if we really believe that the longer a password is, the more secure it is, why is there this rush to get me to 4 characters rather than let me get it long? Because if you go on Microsoft, there are now, instead of that long password I used to put, I got to put in a 4-character PIN, and I don't like it.
Okay, so I'll drop 2 points on that. So for a password, if you were to bring this slide, okay, so I'm not sure if you can see the passphrase and the password string. Right, yeah, I'll break it down for you. So you can have a long password. Jack and Jill went up the hill, just in lowercase. That can be a lot of characters, but that's a weak password. You can have a password that says Jack 1, 2, 3, 4, and based on the characters you have in, it's the complexity of it. So as Chris was saying, we try to use something called alphanumeric passwords, which means it's a number, a character, caps, right? So that essentially is what makes your password harder to break. Harder, not impossible. Most applications go towards something called passwordless. Passwordless, which means they may not necessarily use a password. It allows you to use an app, a token. That's what's being used. And that happens with a random number that's generated over time, and that number is never used again. Well, hardly ever used again. And then that allows you to log into the application without using a password. That's essentially the direction the industry is going right now. It's going away from passwords.
Do you find it difficult to have to always go to put in your PIN?
I'm saying I can create a password that is difficult to guess, but I can't create 4 characters that are difficult to guess. I don't think so. It's too short. If you work out the permutations and the combination, 24 or something guesses, you get it. But if I give you a password with 25 characters, I dare you to guess it.
Yeah, agreed.
Any more questions? Okay. So as I was saying, when you are using the internet and surfing, you want to ensure that those sites that you go on have that S on the HTTP. It means that you are surfing the internet securely and the data is encrypted. So if you are using a site and say you go on online banking and you don't see that HTTPS, that means it is not secure. Don't use it, don't go on it, just ignore it, okay? You want to install an antivirus. Antivirus protection is really important for your computer. Why? Because some of you your kids may be streaming online to watch movies. And in streaming online, you may have the potential of, I don't know if you see when you stream online, then it goes on to another page and then on to another page, you know. So that there is not secure in itself, and the antivirus acts as a layer on your computer that if something is not secure, a site is not secure, it will warn you. It would actually block and prevent the site from going on that site. You wanted to add something?
Yeah. Antivirus, which we call endpoint protection, we want to make sure, don't use a free one. Make sure you use a reputable vendor. We can use Norton, you can use Kaspersky. There's no one better than the other. Microsoft Defender is actually a nice one as well, but again, you want to use a reputable brand. Don't just go and just use a free one, because you could also then be downloading a malicious file that is masquerading as a legitimate antivirus.
Any questions? I can't say which is the best one. What we would recommend is that you can type in what are the top antivirus programs out there and select one that you think meets your needs and the criteria. But as Chad said, there is a plethora of antivirus. Well, I don't like to recommend. However, I personally use, okay, so a top 5. You have Kaspersky, you have Norton Antivirus, you have Bitdefender, you have, what's some others out there? You have McAfee, exactly. So you have a few that you can choose from.
But again, don't quote us on that. That's not an exhaustive list by any means. It changes from time to time. It depends on your use case.
The key is all of them have the ability to protect your device from malware. When you go surfing the internet, it blocks malicious traffic, and what else can it do? Filter content. It just protects the device.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
If you cannot afford antivirus protection, if you cannot afford that, what's the best way to protect yourself when surfing the net?
My response to that is that we can't afford not to. The damage you could sustain on your machine with your ID is worth much more any monetary value that you're thinking of. So we cannot afford not to have endpoint protection on your devices.
Anthony, you have something to add to that? Yes, because I see you.
Good night. If you're using Windows, usually Windows Defender is good enough because that's backed by Microsoft. Microsoft spends millions of dollars doing threat intelligence and different things to make Windows Defender decent. And it comes free with the operating system, which means you have to have a legitimate, genuine operating system. If you're using a pirated copy, then it's all on you. What I wanted to add to my friend here is that you don't have to tap. You can insist to put in your card and put in your PIN. Because the PIN is like two-factor authentication. The card is something you have, the PIN is something you know. So if you choose to tap because it's convenient for you, also like if you're traveling overseas and you're using your card, you may not tell your bank that you're traveling. But when the bank sees that that PIN comes with that transaction, the bank knows it's you. So you can't tell the bank that somebody hacked me when you use the PIN to buy an item in a store. I have had the experience of when it was CIBC, well, still CIBC First Caribbean, where my card got hit for $9,990.99 three or four times before it started declining from somebody in Chaguanas, Trinidad. I had not been to Trinidad in so many years. So they hit it like 4 times. TT dollars. I didn't have a big card, but that was TT dollars, that had US dollars or Barbados dollars. But how they were able to do it, because it was a cent under $10,000. And the bank dealt with the case because the bank recognized that Hogan made 4 purchases for $9,990.99. So the bank is interested in protecting you. So that's why when you go overseas, you should tell the bank you're traveling. But if you don't tell the bank, you need to always do your transactions or your PIN, or not you may find your card gets blocked, and it may get blocked when you're looking to pay the hotel bill. And then you have some sad story that my card get hacked and blah, blah, but the hotel didn't want to hear that. The hotel want the money.
Thank you. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I want to ask a question based on what the gentleman just said, because you can learn a lot of things from Canadian Marketplace. They do a lot of research on this stuff, and I usually like to watch that. I saw a situation there where, and that's why I think sometimes people are too flashy with this stuff. This young lady, she was in this restaurant talking to this guy. Then she flashed out her phone, and his buddy was sitting down right there, and he watched her put in her PIN, and when she went outside, he snatched the bag, took the phone, and in a hurry, he changed up the PIN and everything, and he was doing all sorts of business, and locked her out of all her devices, tablet, computer, everything. And then he took over all of her funds, and the bank didn't give her back anything, because as far as they were concerned, it was legitimately being done by her. She had changed her password, and she was doing all of this. So I don't know where this guy banking, but you got a real nice bank, brother. Okay.
Well, in those situations as well, you want to avoid using public Wi-Fi. Now, I know that a lot of us may not be able to pay for data, but in using public Wi-Fi might be a harm to you, because you may have a bad actor there sniffing the network that you are not able to authenticate to. And in doing that, you may be going on online banking, or you may be looking at some personal data, and that bad actor gets that personal data, or maybe your banking information, and is now able to steal your money or steal your identity or on behalf of you. So when try to avoid using public Wi-Fi. If you have to use it, do not use it for anything that may be of personal information. All right? Avoid downloading applications from unrecognized third-party app stores. What does that mean? If you have an Android, you don't want to download anything from outside of the Play Store, right? And if you have Apple, you want to download from the App Store, because if you download an application, it may be linked to some kind of malware that may be installed on your computer, your device, your tablet, causing harm to you. A lot of us use Bluetooth earphones to listen to music, to do other things within our devices, our computer and our phones, but we don't ever turn it on. We have the ability for Bluetooth vulnerabilities that may occur, and a bad actor may siphon data off of your device if you don't turn off Bluetooth when using that. And we also like to, you need to disable location tracking on your device. we tend to leave that up, letting everyone know, especially if you have it connected to your Facebook, that I am in Bridgetown buying up the whole of town, right? So when you're traveling, when you need to put in, turn on location services like I did to get here because I did not know exactly where it was, I had to turn it on, but after I turn it off in order to be secure. So these are the tools that we have given you in order to put controls in place and be secure. I hope that within the presentation that you have, that we have given you today, that you all have something that you can take away, that you can implement in your daily lives, whether it be 1, 2, or 3. And with that, I want to say thank you for having Chad and I open the floor to any more questions.
Hi, yeah, just one last question. I saw a program recently where this guy was telling people to be very careful who they borrow charger cables from. Because what they're doing now, there's a layer in the cable that your Bluetooth can connect to where they then siphon data from your device.
Exactly.
I have a question. So I saw you on the slide with the social media. You were saying to update your email, update your phone number, and all these things, right?
You're speaking about the security checkup, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I think so. I think that's what it was. But don't these companies use or sell that data to other people at times? And then wouldn't that information that's the information that we're supposed to be protecting, PII, I think you called it, wouldn't that get out there by putting this information into Facebook and then it getting from Facebook somewhere else?
Yeah, so you can add on top of me, but, well, how much PII are you putting out there is the question. And what PII to connect the dots to create harm to you. So for example, you need your email in order to get on Facebook and Instagram. So you have to put in your email. But the slide was saying that you need to, if something does occur, you need to change the password. In addition, I'm not sure about the mobile phone, but I think if something was to occur based on your email, you need to put in your mobile phone to recover it. Now, that is not something necessarily that I would do, right? I am just comfortable leaving my email alone and logging into the application. But the password policies and the different privacy settings that you put in place should assist you in securing your social media platform. And as you said, these companies take that data that you put out there. So whatever pictures you put, whatever chats that you are in, that you may talk within to the different communities, think about what information that is. You want to add to that, Chad? Does that answer your question?
I think that covers everything you said. Yes, Anthony?
It all depends on how paranoid you are. Because you can start setting up fake profiles in social media that are just out there for social media. You can have one-time emails out there so that if you visit a site and it wants an email, you just put it in that and use that. So what I saw this guy, he developed a system where he has a series of public profiles that he would use on social media. But then his private email that he only shares with his family is only with his family. So when he gets an email, that's the inbox that he checks. The other emails that profiles he set up, he don't check them, really. Because nobody who was really important to him would go there. So it all depends on how much effort you want to put in. Because if I ask you, how much money would you pay to use the internet? Besides what you pay at the floor or digital, how much money are you willing to pay to use social media? Right now it is free. And we know it's not really free. It is free because you give them something. So you got to decide, in giving them something, do you give them something real or you give them something false? So if you're really paranoid about it, you start creating a series of public profiles that you use on Facebook, but the emails that you want for your family or your very close friends, you keep that knowledge secure and private. So that'd be like, we call it defense in depth kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yes.
Where you put barriers between you and the internet. So when somebody hacked that public profile, you get rid of it and you start another one.
Yeah.
And you keep going, so you have just that little circle where people just use those public profiles, but your real profile, you keep for your friends and family.
Yeah. And to add on top of what Anthony would have alluded to, I don't know if you guys ever heard of a service called Privacy. It's a US-based service, but essentially what it does is that it creates a short-term credit card for you, right? So you want to make a purchase on the US-only site. It's going to create that instance for you. If it costs $100, you transfer the $100 to that card. It's automatically approved because it's a short-term instance. It makes the payment, and then it burns down the card automatically. So the whole card is out there. So even if that number is somehow captured by somebody in there, it's a short-term card. So we call them ephemeral credit cards, short-term. So that's just a dovetail to add to what Anthony would have added previously.
So I want to bring it back home a bit. Recently within Barbados, there was a lot of discussion about the Barbados ID card and the security features that it had or didn't have. Can you share with us what your views are based on your understanding of what is in the card, how safe it is, or how much concerns we as citizens should have?
My question easier than that, I'm sure.
All right, putting us on the spot. That's a good question. What I would say right now is that before, the card that you were using is just a simple plastic card that you can easily peel off, you know, to access that data as well, right? But now you have the digital ID. Right now, we are not using those particular features of that card that they intend to use it for. However, as it has been said, nowhere else in the world are using those particular features as well. If the Barbados government intends to use the card for digital online purchases, etc., we need to ask ourselves as a society and community, have they put the necessary infrastructure in place to protect the citizens of Barbados? Do they have the particular controls in place where if someone was to be targeted, that we as a community are protected? And, you know, generally, as us individuals, how do we plan on protecting and using that card, right? Chad, you want to add to that? No?
No, I stand behind your comments.
Anthony, you want to add to that?
I agree with what you're saying there.
You good? No? Okay.
You're ready for my question now?
Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah, I had a question, but before I make my question, I wanted to comment on what the brother said about these different profiles. I thought of that, you know, but as some of the events, that brings up a moral question for me. Because if the thing comes up and asks me to put in my name, how can I put in a false name? You see, so what I'm saying, while that sounds good in theory, for Christians it presents a moral dilemma that I'm going to have several different names out there that ain't really me. Anyway, the brethren will figure out that one. But I just wanted to say that for Christians that creates a moral dilemma, right? But it's a good way to get around a real profile. But anyway, my question is this though. I saw this happen and I want to know what is your response to this? I saw on, I think it was the same Canadian marketplace. A gentleman went up to the cash register. He had made some purchases and he took out his either debit or credit card. And before he could tap or anything,
5 different people in the row with him, all of them had their credit cards in their pockets, debited for the amount from the cashier. How do you protect yourself from that? And then the business had to pay back all of those people the money because all of them were debited from that machine. Now, what I read about tapping is that that machine should only respond to your card if your card is within an inch or half inch of that.
That's correct.
So tell me how it's going all down the line and debit 5 people. And what do you do? Do we have any situations where that has happened in Barbados, and how do we deal with it? And if it ain't happened yet, it coming.
All right, I will let Chad answer that, but if he can. But to add to that, a layer of protection that you could put in place is that, you know, sometimes when you're just walking through the airport, you might then see a purchase on your account. You know, have the ability to have protection. The name isn't coming to me. Yeah, the Shield credit card.
Shield.
Yeah, correct. So you can put your credit cards into that to protect yourself as well. And that person, that bad actor, may have had some particular device in which he was able to siphon off, you know, the data, the credit card data from the other individuals. But that credit card shield would protect you. A question?
It wasn't really a question. It was to add to what he said earlier and to touch on what the sister said as well. Those fake emails that you set up really can help. Because sites like, for instance, just an example, Shein, they get hacked all the time. And you give them your personal information. But if you used a fake email address, and if you use the fake credit card, then your information wouldn't be out there, right? So that's where all those phishing emails that you are getting are coming from, because your information is already out there. And you can protect yourself by changing your email address, by asking the bank to change your credit card and change your PIN. Do not use back the same PIN for the new credit card. There are steps that you can take to protect yourselves. And I wouldn't worry too much about putting in a fake name, or that's to protect you. And God asks us to be wise first. And that's the world that we live in, unfortunately.
Yeah. To add to what you said.
Very good point.
So, say you have the same scenario that Anthony alluded to. You have your personal email and you have your family members that only use that for, right? So remember, guys, the aim of security is to reduce the probability. It will never be 0, right? If only 5 people have your email address, you now have 5 vectors of infection, possibly. If those persons are infected, you can run a scan against the address book and they have your email, even though you only use it to send emails to one from that person, right? So I hear what you're saying. It does make sense. But just keep in mind that from the time you use an email address, from the time you create it, somebody knows about it. Yeah? All right. So, I agree.
So I'm going to end here and say that it's not a matter of if, but when. Mm-hmm. We all need to assume a breach is going to happen. And in assuming a breach is going to happen, we have given you, that pocket of things that you need to do to protect yourself. So I want you to walk away from here saying that, if I can have a better password, let's implement it today. If I can install antivirus, whether it be a paid version or the Windows version that is local and free to your operating system and computer, let's do that. If I am going to always take a step back from my busy life and look at who sent me that email and what are the indicators Chad discussed, I'm going to do that. And the major thing as well is to verify and validate. Okay? So thank you for having us, and thank you for inviting us, Keisha, to deliver cybersecurity for families. And you can all reach out to the Information Systems Security Association chapter. We will give Keisha the email, and any of you can contact me as well. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, everyone.
All right, so I want to thank the Information System Security Association, represented so well by Christina and Shad, and even Anthony, for coming here today to present on cybersecurity. It is a very relevant topic that we all need to be aware of. We all need to protect ourselves, whether we are using social media or not. We need to make sure, as they rightfully said, who we give our personal information to, because whether we intend to or not, once it is out there, it's very hard to pull it back. So thank you very much for coming and sharing such an informative presentation with us.
All right, guys. So I too want to say that this session was very informative. I learned a lot, and again, I want to thank you guys for giving us that information. And I hope that you just don't go home and click on every email, remember what they said, because it's very relevant information, all right? And at this point in time, I know it's late already, we're going to close with our closing prayer by our brother Zach.
Let's all stand, please. Father in heaven, we thank you for the blessing of information. We thank you for the blessing of knowledge. We ask that we will take this knowledge and we will use it not only to protect ourselves, but to further your work as well. We ask that you will take us home in peace and in safety. Thank you for the Sabbath, and may your blessings attend us during this new and untried week. In Jesus' name, amen.